It's day 170. Woke up this morning to the news that there had been a huge fire near us. 3 condos burned down up at Beach Mountain, which is a ski resort near us. Apparently caused by a lightning strike, a result of the huge storm system that blew across the nation and devastated so many people. As it's hard to look at and think about more devastation on top of the devastation we've had around here. At least 3 of the condos are gone and several cars gone. So awful sad and awful hard for some people. Thinking about Melinda Williams' story. A lot of questions about why people have to suffer. But the Holy Spirit's been speaking to me in the midst of it too. I'll share a little bit of that, which I pray comforts you or encourages you or gives you some hope like it's given me, like it gave her in the middle of an unthinkable tragedy. Come up here and see a macro view of how big God is, how small we are, and how much we need Him. Anyway, on with Melinda's amazing story. This was her house before the storm. This is what was left after the storm. They've helped get her moved into a new house, and Emily, the Brinkers, somebody got free furniture for her. We went down, Jess and Jim and I, to Newton Conover and picked this furniture up. And now we're delivering it to her. Melinda Williams.
Melinda Williams.
You want to tell me what happened to you? What happened to you in the storm? And you were in Banner Elk?
I was in Banner Elk, so I'm a full-time paramedic and a small business owner as well. I clean houses on the side. About 3 a.m. I lost my cameras at the river that I was watching, so I left EMS to go home to get my dogs. Ooh. Within 45 minutes or less, I wasn't able to get back across my bridge. And I didn't have anywhere else to go, so I just kind of stayed at home with my dogs. Very nervous, so there was no way for me to leave during the middle of the night. I had left my only flashlight at EMS. The wind got really strong and came across the top of the house, and it sounded like the house was being just shaken like a cereal box. And at that point in time, I knew that I wasn't going to make it. I had been communicating with my niece on the other side of the river that was watching me be surrounded by the water and nowhere to go. And I sent her a text message and I told her, Heidi, I'm not going to make it through this. I'm going to need you to tell the rest of the family that I love them and I'm okay. And I called my daughter, which lives in New Jersey, and I didn't get her, and I don't know if I'm thankful that I didn't get her or that I was able to leave a voicemail, but all I could think was to tell her that I love her. I'm not going to make it, but here's my insurance information. The water went from not even up above my foundation to completely enclosing me inside of my house with the water. I had moved my dogs and I into the bedroom because my bed was the largest piece of furniture. And we were kind of floating on the bed, and I heard somebody say, you can't stay in the bedroom because the bedroom door's shut. You're gonna die if you stay in the bedroom. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I'm gonna die anyway, but okay. So I got off the bed and I was able to push my nightstand out of the way, open the door. The water was at my waist. I took about 3 steps, if that, and the water was over my shoulders. I had enough time to tell my dogs I love them, and I was completely underwater. Then I went into the living room, and because I had a peak ceiling in the living room, and something said, you can't stay in here, you're gonna die. And I'm like, I don't know what else to do. So I kind of put my body in the hallway, and I had my head up as high as I could have my head, holding on to the door jamb. And I took one really good breath, thought that I had enough time to take another breath, but it was nothing but water. And I could feel that part of my house was no longer attached to the foundation, but part of it was, and I could hear, I guess it was the trees, or I don't know what, just hit in the house, and I'm completely underwater, and something hit the house so hard and it knocked the house, and I could feel the house moving, and I'm completely underwater inside of the house, and I'm like, okay, my kids are gonna have a body to bury. They're gonna be able to say goodbye to me, and it's gonna be all right. And then all of a sudden, it was the loudest explosion. Just this horrendous explosion. I'm in the middle of the river. I was in sheer panic because that water was raging. It was so angry. And I'm trying to figure out where my house is at. How did I get in the water? Because I'm like, okay, the house is ruptured, but where is it at? Because now it's gonna take me out and it's gonna kill me, and I don't have anything to grab a hold of because I'm in the middle of the river.
And then you ask yourself, or I ask myself, is God good? Where's God in the midst of all this suffering and tragedy? I'm standing on my little back deck here. I come out at night and I sit on that deck right there. Then I look up at the sky and I see all the stars, and I see the Big Dipper right there every night at a certain time, every night, unless it's cloudy. And I feel, and it's turned this way, like it's dumping God's blessings out on us. And I'll say this, there's plenty I don't understand, plenty I can't explain. I know some things about God and so little, I have much to learn, but I believe him and believe in him and fear him. And there's certain things that never change. And when I say that, that Big Dipper's been there for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. I never come out one night and it's a clear sky and it's suddenly not there unless it's in another part of the sky. It hasn't disappeared or broken. We had a terrible storm last night, and it caused a lot of destruction in the last few days across America, and a lot of destruction here in the high country. You just saw some of it. Storming, windy, hard to sleep last night. Got up and came out on that deck behind me this morning, and guess what? The sun came up, and the birds were out here singing. There's never been a morning that I got up and came out at 6 or 7 if it's supposed to be light or getting light, and it was pitch black. And I get a message from God, sorry, it's not going to be light today. The sun broke. I'm working on it. I have to fix it. I made it. I can fix it. The sun has come up for thousands of years and set right over there for thousands and thousands of years. And think about that. I hope I'm communicating what I'm trying to say, is that there are things that God made that never break, that never end. God is faithful, that you can count on. Spring comes. There's never been a spring that I know of that the daffodils didn't come up and poke their head even through the snow. Everything man makes breaks. Relationships break, vehicles break, houses burn down. There's certain things that God instituted, created, and made that never break. And they've worked for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So is God good? What's that line from Aslan, from Narnia, The Witch, the Lion, and Wardrobe? Is he good? Yes. Is he safe? No. Anyway, God is good, and there's hope, and hope springs eternal.
And I hear a voice telling me to calm down. And I'm not registering what I'm hearing until I feel a hand. I feel a hand on my shoulder, my left shoulder. And a squeeze of my shoulder. It says, "You've got to calm down. You're going to be okay." And I said, okay. And I realized that the reason why I wasn't moving is because my shorts that I had on something had me pinned and was pulling me under the water and keeping me from moving. So I was able to kick my shorts off and I go down the river. And I'm like, I trust you. You're telling me I'm going to be okay. Every time that something would hit me in the back and knock me under the water, I would think that was it, that I was going to come back, and then I would feel something grab a hold of my shoulders and pull me back up out of the water. And I went from being in the raging portion of the river that there was no way that I was going to survive. But I had this overwhelming calm because I felt that touch on my shoulder and I heard those words telling me I was going to be okay. But somehow I went from being in that river to in the flooded woods, and I was able to grab a hold of some trees. The first two little trees that I grabbed a hold of just allowed me to catch my breath. And I'm hanging in that tree. And I don't know how long I'd actually hung in the tree when I realized that my Fitbit was still working. And I could see my heart rate. And it gave me time to look at my hands, and I had this horrendous cut on my right hand in between my index finger. And I'm like, I'm not bleeding anymore, but also the color of my skin had turned completely white, so my heart wasn't really pumping the way it needed to be pumping because I was cold. And the water at this point is still above my shoulders, but I'm high enough in this tree, standing on what I thought was branches, to keep my head above the water. And the water started going down, and I realized that as I'm standing, and what I thought was the branches of this tree was actually a laurel bush that had wrapped itself around the base of the tree. And I was in the tree for hours. My niece had already told everybody that I was gone. They all saw that my house wasn't there anymore. My little brother and my nephews watched my house wash away. They all were running up and down the river as they could, screaming. Not that anybody could have heard me, or even if they could have seen me, they wouldn't have been able to have gotten to me. I don't know, maybe 4 hours. And I hung onto this tree. And I watched my heart rate just gradually go down, and I realized that I'm not shivering anymore, so hypothermia is already set in. I'm hallucinating. Your brain and God has a funny way of protecting your mental health and your ability to hang on, but I'm in the middle of this raging river. The only thing left below me is a rock wall. And in that time, I had a lot of time to have a conversation with God and tell him that I can't hold on anymore and I'm just gonna let go. Don't let my kids see my body, because this river is going to destroy, and they're going to want to see me. They don't need to remember me like that. He just kept telling me, no, no. Every time I wanted to let go, he told me no.
Wow. I gotta pause the video. I'm here editing it. You need to hear that, and I need to hear that. Every time I wanted to quit or give up, God said, no, don't give up. Just even in the last 6 months, times I'm so emotionally worn out and physically worn out that I want to quit. And I've had dear friends and beautiful people and hardworking people that have quit this work that we're doing and burned out and quit and went back to their normal lives. So, man, keep going, don't give up, and keep looking up. All right, back to her story. We'll wrap it up here.
And finally, I could feel that laurel bush starting to sink off of that tree, so I knew that the water was actually going down a lot faster than I thought that it was going down. And I realized that I can't hang on to this tree anymore. And the first time I tried to step down out of the tree, the water was too strong and I couldn't feel the ground, and I didn't know how high in the tree I was. I didn't know how deep the water still was. And I hung on for a little bit longer, but the last check of my watch, my heart rate was 35. And the paramedic side of me says, you gotta go or you're gonna die. And I said, I'm letting go. And if the water washes me away, please don't let my kids find my body. And when I put my foot down, I touched the ground. And I wanted to stop and give up so much because I just could not go any longer. God just kept saying, you have to move, you have to move, you have to move. And I didn't know whether or not my little brother's house was still standing. Wasn't real sure exactly how far down the river I had been washed, but I knew the direction I needed to go. I tried walking a straight line along with the water, but the mud and the water was still too deep, so I had to kind of climb up the side of the mountain before I could go back to the direction that I needed to go. And I finally made it to my brother's house, and it was still there. I didn't know if they were still there or if they had left. And I knocked on the door and nobody answered. And I'm like, okay. And I knocked one last time and I'm like, I can't take another step. This is where I'm gonna die because I cannot move anymore. And at that point, my nephew opened up the door. They got me inside, got the wet clothes I had left on off of me, and I was able to get warm, and there was no way to let anybody know that I was alive. You know, the phone services were down, and so we stayed inside for a little bit, I don't know, a few hours, and I got warm, and then we started, I was like, I can't stay in here anymore, we have to go. I got to go see if my goats are still alive. We were walking, and that's when my niece saw us. And she knew that I wasn't dead. And, you know, we're all standing there, and they're like, are you okay? And I said, I'm fine, I'm good, everything's okay. And we had wrapped up my hand, so they're like, what's wrong with your hand? I was like, oh, it's just a little cut, it's gonna be okay. It's just a little cut, it's gonna be okay. I mean, the one thing that I can say to everybody is that all it takes is a little faith and to listen. That's all it takes. Because that's the only reason why I'm here. Is because I had enough faith in that touch and in that voice. And I was protected inside of that house. I was protected inside of that river. And I was protected on that tree.
Wow. Anyway, God is good, and there's hope, and hope springs eternal. I hope something that you've seen or heard today gives you hope in the midst. And it's a great mix. Everybody that's watching this has had suffering and hurt in your life, myself included. Lots of suffering and hurt and pain. I've had such miracles and blessing and good. So I choose to have faith. I choose to believe. And that's what keeps me going. Love you. Thanks for listening. Hannah, look. What is that?
These are called
Daffodils.
Yeah.
You know what that means?
Yeah.
It means spring is coming.
Yeah.